Spreadsheet Guide version 3, part 1. I'll make it probably a three-parter. Each one will be about 10 minutes long. So at the beginning, when you first start the spreadsheet, when you first launch it, you'll see the starter pack. So it's like an introductory welcome page where you have your links for the Telegram channels. Obviously, for the purpose of this video, I've changed the text color so people public can't access the Telegram channel. So there's the private channel where I post twice daily bulletins for stop loss clusters, daily videos, just hints and tips, trading recommendations and stuff like that. Things to be aware of, like correlations and things, things that I've learned over time. I'll post there, and with a private discussion group for members where you guys can, bounce ideas off each other, share ideas, put suggestions and stuff like that. I'll probably put a poll there every now and again to get ideas and how to improve the service. And then we've got a technical group for members where it has to stay on topic and it has to adhere to a trade and technical sentiment context. So that's good for your entries and exits. This is good for ideas. This is quite a long page. I won't scroll down because you guys can see the links for the things that I'm recommending, and they're on my Google Drive. So for the purpose of that, I'm not going to scroll down, but there's applications, websites, softwares, guides, tutorials, and you can all see it on the starter pack, which I recommend that you go through and you scroll down and you just make sure that you know that you're using each one of these things. So that's that really. There's not much to it. It's just your links for the Telegram and things that I'd recommend that you use. This is part of my system, the QuasiDB system, and we use the sentiment and the technicals to agree. Dashboard. So at the top, you'll see green and red fields. This is based on global indices, so it calculates the SSI, the sentiment for DAX, the US 30, S&P, FTSE, France. And so when the retail sell, it becomes a buy. As you can see, they're selling, so that's why that's green. And the difference over time, so this was yesterday and this is today, and we're slightly more risk off, slightly teetering than we were yesterday. So ideally we want it green, green, green in order to buy the indices, but there's a slight issue there because we're a little bit more risk off than we were yesterday. This is the high level view of the currency pairs. That's the low level view. This is automated. This is manual. So what you'd want for the high level and the low level to agree. So Aussie yen is a sell because the retail are long, and it's a sell because they're buying over time, and that's why that's a sell. Okay, so you want the two to agree, but technically we want price to be below the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot, and currently price is above, so technically it's in a good place. Sentimentally it's a sell, so you want the two to agree. So that's it really, not much to it. And that pie chart is just telling you retail sentiment. They're really long oil, for example. And then we've got some signals down here based on FXCM sentiment over time. So Friday, for example, we've got US oil as a sell because they're going long. And there's a deviation from the average. That's a huge deviation. So that's a sell signal in itself. So that's that. I keep my page on SLC and size because this is all dynamically changing. Every 60 seconds this changes. So this is why I keep it on this page. Because I trade dollar pairs and gold, so I'm interested in how the USD is performing against its peers. USD is strong, but except for the yen. So we'd look, for a UJ trade there potentially, but we'd want the USD bubble to be over here in order to sell. Okay, so there's lots of things to talk about here. I'll break it down. So we've got the SLC above, SLC below. SLC is stop loss cluster. So these are all liquidity zones that we can target. So say something's a sell, which we know the Aussie yen is, we'd target the one below because that's where the retail have their stops. And naturally, the larger the size, the more attractive it is. So we can see that Aussie dollar size is quite large at that level, but we know it's a buy. Had it been a sell, we would target that. Okay, so that's just what that means. We just want to try and these are your target liquidity zones, and this is the direction, the bias, and this is the shifting across time. Okay, and that's your SLC change over time. So if stop loss clusters get triggered, it'll be reflected there. When stops get triggered, we can see a potential reversal, especially if that 5.88 goes to 1%. That's a huge amount of liquidity that's been probed and absorbed, and then we can expect a reversal. So that's how that works. This is all dynamically changing, which is cool. That changes all the time. If you're new to the videos, the bubbles, what it is that this is the time, this is your long-short ratios. So as they go long, it becomes a sell, and then when they sell, it becomes a buy. Okay, so they're currently selling yen, so we'd look to buy yen, and they're currently going long Kiwi, so we'd look to sell. But the bubble size tells you price performance on the day, so we should see large bubbles down here, and we should see small bubbles up there. So Kiwi's misbehaving at the moment. That should reduce in size, or it needs to move. Okay, so we know that the retail, they don't hold on to their profits. As soon as they get into profit, they'll exit and they'll hold on to their drawdown. So that's a peculiarity. It's a bit of an anomaly, that one. It should reduce in size. So really, because we know that's a sell and we know that's a buy, the Kiwi yen would be a good trade, but only if that reduces in size. So we'd look to pitch strong versus weak, euro, and then strong. So euro yen would be a good signal. So yeah, that's how that works. So this is mixed and that's mixed. This is strong buy, that's strong sell. But the bubble size tells you the price performance on the day. Because that's large and it's in the strong sell, that needs to reduce. So that's that. Just some more fancy graphics, just stop loss clusters. We can see how some of the XXX yen have large stop loss clusters above. So it looks like they're going to get probed. And then there's the one below for Aussie dollar, and that looks likely to be probed too. So yeah, big liquidity, and then bounce potentially. So that's that really. So that's the SLC and size. And then I'll finish the video off with signals. This is all automated now, which is cool. The technical support is based on the daily S3 pivot point, and the technical resistance level is your daily R3 resistance. And then we've got the pivot points and the inclusion of the SLCs as well. So we can see at a high level the Aussie dollar is a buy, but at the low level it's a sell. So we wouldn't look to trade the Aussie dollar today, but we would look to have a look at the Aussie yen. But remember where price is with pivot. We are above monthly pivot, so we'd want that below. And for example, over here is your distance. So we know that price is above the weekly pivot because it's a positive number. So because it's positive, it's got a technical bullish bias. Now the euro is below the weekly pivot and it's below the monthly pivot, and we see a negative subtraction sign. So we know it's technically a sell. How about sentimentally? Sell, sell. And there's your support level on the day. So that's where you'd target there at 107.74. So it's just a case of getting the things to agree, the sentiment to agree at a high level and at a low level. The low level is time, and that's just static. So where things are right now. So that's the signals. Just a part one video. And then I'll talk about the bubbles, which I briefly talked about just now. And then I'll go on to about the retail positioning and the search tool and the MyFX book live data for part two.